Metal Gear Solid is one of the few series that has really managed to propel video games forward as a storytelling medium. The past games have weaved quite a tangled web, and Metal Gear Solid 4 attempts to tie it all together in a stunning conclusion to Snake's story. While there's no denying its impact, Metal Gear has also become one of the quintessential love-it-or-hate-it games of this generation. While many love the cinematic cutscenes, others can find themselves getting bored as they sit through long periods without so much as picking up the controller. The slow, methodic, and often unforgiving gameplay is also rewarding, but not everyone's cup of tea. Metal Gear Solid 4 attempts to modernize the game and make the interface a bit more intuitive and accessible than before. The result is the sleekest controlling Metal Gear yet, although in all honesty it still feels like Metal Gear, and that is to say, the controls are still a bit on the clunky side. Snake has a huge variety of actions and items at his disposal, and transitioning between all of your animations isn't always as fast as you might like. By far the biggest improvement is the Octo Camo system, which allows Snake to blend in with any texture that he's against. The system works great, and it's a huge improvement over having to wade through menus to put on your camouflage in MGS3. The other big addition is the Solid Eye, which allows you to switch between different modes of vision, and provides a radar that's both more realistic and more helpful than the radar systems in past games. If that's not enough, you've also got the Metal Gear Mark II, which allows you to scout out the areas ahead and even electrocute unsuspecting guards. As you would expect, these systems make Metal Gear Solid 4 a much easier game to play than past titles. Metal Gear veterans may want to start right out by cranking the difficulty up to hard. With all these improvements to stealth, it's surprising how little stealth gameplay there is this time around. The game is divided into 5 acts, and after the end of Act 2, you'll barely ever be sneaking past human guards again. Even when you're supposed to use stealth, it's much more a matter of preference this time around, as gunplay is far more effective than in previous games. For action fans, these can be welcome changes, but for stealth junkies such as myself, it can be a bit of a disappointment. There's more variety than ever before, but none of these additions are handled as well as the traditional stealth gameplay that Metal Gear is known for. There are several on-rails shooting segments that, while exciting, are somewhat hampered by a slow-moving aiming reticle. There's a rather large escort mission in the middle of the game, and you'll also be spending plenty of time dodging the laser sights of robots, which unfortunately are neither as fun nor as satisfying to outsmart as the human AIs. The whole second half of the game can often feel like a blur of boss fights and cutscenes. In typical Metal Gear fashion, the boss fights are creative and fun, and require some puzzle solving to take down. A few of them feature some throwbacks to past Metal Gear bosses. The only downside is that once you figure their weakness out, defeating them is almost too easy, although you can still try and go for the tranquilizer kill. As crazy as the Metal Gear story has become, Part 4 does a great job of tying up all the loose ends. This is one of the most dramatically emotional games you're ever likely to play. The story goes back to the convoluted style of Metal Gear Solid 2, and is at once both excellent and ridiculous. Brooding diatribes on the military-industrial complex will be interspersed with smoking monkeys and explosive diarrhea. But it's not really the plot itself that shines so much as the characters that star in it. Just as the idea of Metal Gear itself is kind of absurd in an age of ICBMs and nuclear submarines, you likely won't care about the finer details because the character interactions are so good. Just about every character still standing from the series will make a cameo. And the game is full of dramatic and powerful moments, some of which may even bring a tear to your eye. The cinematic storytelling of the game is so well done that it frankly makes it hard to judge the gameplay objectively. Metal Gear Solid 4 feels more like an overall experience than it does a video game. From a pure gameplay standpoint, Metal Gear Solid 4 offers both the best stealth gameplay of the series, and probably the least of it. After finishing my first 20-hour playthrough, I was surprised at how little of that time I had actually spent sneaking past guards. Despite this complaint, if you're a fan of the series, it's really hard not to love Metal Gear Solid 4. In fact, the title is almost pure fan service from Kojima. He even manages to throw in some of those great it's just a game moments that'll probably have you laughing out loud. It also goes without saying that the game both looks and sounds amazing, with a presentation that rivals just about anything on the console market. The game includes Metal Gear Online, which may be a secondary concern for some fans, but definitely adds some replay value for those who enjoy multiplayer. Konami created a bit of controversy prior to the release by trying to censor reviewers from talking about the game's loading screens. Metal Gear Solid 4 requires several minutes of install time between every act. While a minor nuisance, this really isn't that big of a deal, and is even somewhat amusing at times as the game tells you to take a break and get some exercise. It certainly shouldn't dissuade you from playing. To get the most out of MGS4, it really is best if you've played the previous games first. But however you slice it, there's no denying that this is a great game, and the best reason to own a PlayStation 3 yet.
Come in, Snake! What happened?